Well, good morning, everyone. On the call to order on item number 1, welcome to the West Grey Special Council meeting for August 9th, 2021. I do want to let everyone know that we are working off the Special Council meeting agenda. Then we'll be dealing with the public meeting agenda where there are 2 applications, and then returning to the Special Council meeting. So that's the order. I see that we have all members of council present. There is a quorum for this meeting. And at this juncture, Supervisor Hewlett, could you please explain the features for this electronic meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected at any time, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 890-1209-2346. Both members of council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. It should be noted that this meeting is being held in 2 places. It is being held on Zoom and it is being live streamed on YouTube. For members of the public, any public participation must be done through the Zoom meeting software. Chat and messages on YouTube are not being monitored at this time. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance throughout the duration of the meeting, you can send a chat message in Zoom to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, and I will attempt to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewlett. Item number 2, moment of reflection. Members of council and staff and citizens that are listening in on our council meeting today, special council meeting, please take a quiet moment at this time, if you will. Thank you. Item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of council, is there anything to declare at this time? Seeing none. We are now moving on to item number 4, and that is for the public meetings. Clerk Sharbeck, to the recommendation, please.
Through you, Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that West Grey Council adjourns at 9:05 a.m. for the purpose of proceeding into a public meeting pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act to review proposed amendments to West Grey zoning bylaw number 37, 2006.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Morning, it's Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will move the motion.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you seconding this motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by raising your hand. 7 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. The motion is carried. Thank you. We are now moving over to the public meeting agenda, which is also on our website. So we will begin the West Grey public meeting for August 9th, 2021. I am calling this meeting to order. We have all members of council in attendance. There is a quorum for this meeting. Supervisor Hewlett, this is another meeting, so I would very much appreciate if you would go through the electronic features for this meeting.
Absolutely. As stated before, at any point, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 890-1209-2346. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being held in 2 locations. The meeting is being held electronically on Zoom and is also being live streamed on YouTube. For members of the public, please note that any chat or public participation on YouTube is not being monitored at this time. All chat and public participation must be done through the Zoom meeting software. Both members of council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance for the duration of this meeting, please send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, and I will attempt to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewlett. Item number 2, declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of council, is there anything to declare? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 3, purpose of the meeting. Clerk Scharbeck to this particular item.
Through Mayor Robinson, the purpose of this morning's meeting is for council to receive information regarding 2 applications for zoning amendments. There will be no decisions at this public meeting. It's a time to receive information, and there will be an opportunity for members of the public to comment. If anybody would like notified of the decision of this meeting, they are to advise Recreation Supervisor Hewlett of their name and contact information so we can provide that follow-up afterwards. It will also allow an opportunity to appeal to LPAT, depending on council's decision at a future date. There'll be no decisions today, as I had mentioned. There may be zoning amending bylaws brought forward to a future regular council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Administration and Clerk Scharbeck, for that. We are now moving on to item number 4, ZA dot 09.2021. Solanco Joseph and Agent Nunn Joshua, 1028 Victoria Street, Ayton, Lot 2, Plan 153, 16R7958, Part 1, Township of Normanby. On item 4.1, application for zoning amendment ZA.09.2021, Solanco Joseph and Agent Nunn Joshua. So we are now moving swiftly on to 4.2, Planner L. Spencer report. We will have the recommendation read. I would be looking for a mover and seconder. We'll have a presentation from our planner. Any questions based on that from members of council? And then I will call the vote. So with that, Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the recommendation at hand?
To Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that council receives Planner Spencer's report for file ZA09-2021 Solanco and Nunn. And the recommendation that application ZA09-2021 to satisfy a condition of provisional consent be approved through bylaw at a future meeting.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'll move the motion.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchinson, yes, I second motion.
Thank you. We will now go to Planner Spencer for the presentation. CBO Carl Shipwreck, as the planner is obviously under your portfolio. Is there a presentation you wish to make, or are we waiting on Planner Spencer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Planner Spencer did indicate to me that she was on the Zoom meeting. She was just had called in rather than using an electronic device. So I'm not sure which user she is, but if she could unmute herself now.
Yes, and I do see a electronic hand raised, and also Supervisor Hewlett. Do you have a further update?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I believe Planner Spencer just had to be unmuted. I can confirm that her mic is live now.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, Planner Spencer. We are anticipating your presentation at this time.
Thank you, and I apologize for the technical difficulty, Madam Mayor.
No worries.
Through you, the subject lands are municipally identified as 1028 Victoria Street in the secondary settlement area of Ayton. They're legally identified as Lot 2, Plan 153, Registered Plan 16R7958, Part 1 in the geographic township of Normanby. The purpose of this application is to fulfill the condition of consent for file B082021, which was to sever one residential lot and retain one residential lot within the secondary settlement area. The effect of the application created a total of 2 lots, including the retained parcel. Both parcels are intended to be used for residential purposes. The appeal period for the related severance application ended on June 6th of 2021, and no appeals were received. The merits of the application were reviewed as part of the provincial policy statement review and of those of the county official plan. The 2020 PPS requires that all planning applications are consistent with the policies of the PPS. For reference purposes, the evaluation of those documents were included within the planning report for reference purposes as they were before the Committee of Adjustment. As previously stated, the recommendation for this report is that the file be approved to fulfill a condition of consent for file B082021. Comments related to the application indicated no concerns and were related and provided as part of the original application through committee. The County of Grey Planning and Development Department provided those comments in addition to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Again, no conditions or concerns were identified as part of those comments. I'm here to provide any further clarification as required. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Planner Spencer, for that report. We're now moving on to questions from members of council based on your report. Are there any questions, members of council? Thank you. Councillor Townsend.
Through you, Mayor Robinson. I did notice the county had some concerns about having an additional holding item to allow for expansion of the road if necessary, as further development may happen in the area. And they didn't want to not allow for the fact that there could be more expansion. So I'm wondering, how does that get put into the mix and show up in the recommendation?
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of this application is to implement that holding provision relative to the 20-meter right-of-way at the north end of the property as a result of the county comments. Beyond that, this is to address their concerns and originally provided as part of the consent application through Committee of Adjustment. But I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Mayor. That was my only comment.
Thank you very much. Am I seeing any other questions at this time? Clerk Sharbeck, could you please read the motion at hand, and then I will call the vote.
Through Mayor Robinson. The recommendation is that Council receives Planner Spencer's report for file ZA 09-2021, Solanco and Noon. And the recommendation therein to approve the application.
Thank you. Councillor Hergert, I did see your hand. If your question is in regards to the motion at hand, I will take it at this time. If it's about the application, there is an opportunity under 4.4.
So I was curious if we would allow members of the public, like we as council just were able to ask questions, so members of the public would be able to ask.
Certainly, that comes under 4.4 a little later under 4.4.2. Thank you. So on the motion, all those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 7 members of council have voted in favor. This motion is carried. We are now moving on to 4.3, written comments. There are comments under 4.3.1, Grey County, 4.3.2, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. So if Planner Spencer has anything additional to say, and at this point, I will also ask our planner, has any other comments been received? I will ask the clerk the same question, because as everyone knows, we can receive comments up to this meeting time. Please go ahead with any comments with regard to all of that. Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, no further additional comments have been received at this point in time for the application, other than the ones indicated previously in my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clerk Sharbeck, to you the question, have you received any comments, whether they are in writing or like submission through email or through our Dropbox or any other mode of communication?
Mayor Robinson, no, I have not received any further comments than the ones included in the package. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now moving on to 4.4, verbal comments. We'll begin with 4.4.1, members of council. Members of council, are there any comments? Thank you. 4.4.2, public members. Supervisor Hewlett, could you please explain how a member of our public can participate in this application?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Members of the public wishing to participate at this point in the meeting may do so one of two ways: through the Zoom meeting software. As stated previously in the meeting, public participation cannot take place across the YouTube live stream. The first option, if you have joined us over the phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let me know on my end that you are wishing to speak. The second option being, if you have joined us using the online meeting software on Zoom, you can send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, either stating that you would like to speak or with your comment that can be read on your behalf.
Thank you. Are you seeing anyone on the dashboard, Supervisor Hewlett?
Just taking a quick review of everything, Mayor Robinson, I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to participate at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will then move on to 4.5, next steps. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The next steps for the application will be to receive the recommendation of the planner to proceed with the appropriate approval of the zoning bylaw amendment through council at the next available council meeting, at which point in time there will be a notification for the 20-day appeal period. Following no notice of appeals, should that be the case, the applicant will be notified that they have fulfilled their condition of consent, one of which there are several that still need to be fulfilled, but one of which will be noted as part of the provisional consent process. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Scharbeck, do you have anything to add on next steps?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. No, I have nothing to add to Planner Spencer's explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now moving on to item number 5, ZA 10-2021 in brackets 216771 Ontario Inc., Weller, York, 302346 Concession 2 SDR, Lot 57, Concession 2 SDR, Township of Bentic. On 5.1, it's the application for zoning amendment ZA 10 2021 in brackets 216771 2167771 Ontario Inc., Weller, York, end of bracket. 5.2, Planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation, please.
Through Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that council receive Planner Spencer's report and the recommendation therein to approve zoning amendment application ZA 10-2021 for 216771 Ontario Inc.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hergert, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you seconding this motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you. We will now have a presentation from Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This application, as reiterated, is related to ZA 10-2021. Just as a matter of note, the numbered company is 2167771 Ontario Inc. through Weller, York. Again, this is an application that is a condition of provisional consent for file B09-2021. The subject lands are municipally known as 302346 Concession 2 SDR. The lands are legally described as Lot 57 Concession 2 SDR in the geographic township of Bentic. The property is designated as rural, hazard, and provincially significant wetlands within the county official plan. There's been some identification by the county through the official plan through the appendices of the county official plan that there are significant woodlands on the property. The purpose and effect of file B09-2021 was to sever a 2.8 hectare parcel and add 25.2 hectares of the remnant parcel to the property to the immediate west of the subject lands, the effect of which created a new residential parcel and created a newly merged parcel to the west. As a result of this application, there was 147 meters of frontage with an approximate depth of 261 meters. The lot addition lands were sufficient and met the requirements of the zoning bylaw for the municipality. Unfortunately, the residential parcel needed to be recognized that the zoning bylaw amendment application was required to meet the undersized lot frontage and area, and also in addition to rezone the livestock barn that was existing on the property as dry use only, as it would not meet the minimum distance separation requirements if allowed to permitted to contain livestock in future. Comments were received and reviewed through the Committee of Adjustment the merits of the application related to the PPS and the County of Grey official plan. Comments were received from the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, both of which are in support of the use of a zoning bylaw amendment to address the issues related to the application and legally require them for the zoning bylaw amendment application. Planning staff have no further concerns as a result of those commenting agencies, and any requests for clarification can be specified at this time. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Planner Spencer. Questions from members of council? Seeing none. Clerk Sharbeck, could you please read the motion, and then I will call the vote.
Through you, Mayor Robinson, the recommendation, the motion is that council receive Planner Spencer's report and the recommendation therein to approve zoning amendment application ZA 10-2021 for 2167771 Ontario Inc.
Thank you. All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 7 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion is carried. 5.3 written comments received. 5.3.1 Grey County and 5.3.2 Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Planner Spencer, do you have anything to add with regard to the comments received? And could you also clarify if any additional comments have been received?
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, the additional comments that were received only exist in the presence of this application before council at this time. There were no additional comments of concern received from adjacent landowners other than requests for clarification, but no specific written comments. It was simply verbal requests to understand the application. At this point in time, I have nothing further to elaborate, but I'm happy to clarify as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Clerk Sharbeck, have you received any comments?
Through Mayor Robinson, I have not received any further written comments than the ones that are included in the package. Thank you.
Thank you as well. 5.4 verbal comments, beginning with 5.4.1. Council members, are there any comments? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. May I ask a question of our planner? So it's not a comment, it's a question. Appropriate? Thank you. So just to clarify, in the Conservation Authority's comments on page 7, and they have their summary, they note as number 4, they note that staff recommend that zoning be updated to match the hazard designation as indicated in the Grey County OP. So I just wanted to check in with our planner that that's been addressed through the zoning application. Thank you.
Thank you. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, as a point of clarification, this is a common comment that is received. And as part of that, we do document that. So the zoning maps in general will continue to be updated as part of the zoning bylaw review. And at that point in time, that is when the document will be updated. It is updated in the sense that the county has defined the mapping more clearly for us, but it's a very common comment, and that is as a result of the need for the zoning bylaw as a whole to be updated to represent the most correct mapping. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, just a question to our planner, maybe too. I notice that the severed land has aggregate designation, and in the future, if the applicant decides to go ahead with removing that, they would have to go through the process of applying for open gravel pit. Is that correct? There would be an application process for that.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. Any application for an aggregate operation would have to not only go through the ministry process for approval of that operation, but there would also be a public process through the terms of a zoning bylaw amendment to proceed with that application, which would be publicly notified. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Anything further, members of council? Moving on then to 5.4.2, public members. Supervisor Hewlett, could you please assist in determining if there's anyone that wishes to speak under verbal comments? Thank you.
Members of the public wishing to speak during this portion of the meeting may do so in one of two ways over the online Zoom meeting software. If you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Alternatively, you can press *9 to lower your hand if it was raised in error. The second option would be to send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, either stating that you would like to speak at this point or your comment that you would like read on your behalf. Just taking a quick review of the dashboard as well as my chat, Mayor Robinson. I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak at this point.
Okay, thank you. 5.5, next steps then. Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The next steps would be notification of decision. Once this is brought forward in the zoning bylaw before council and a decision is made, should it be supported, there will be notice of decision, supported or not support. This will be notified with a 20-day appeal period following on both parties of the public and the applicant in general. Following the notice of no appeals with a supportive decision, the applicant will be notified that they have identified and fulfilled the condition of provisional consent for file B09-2021. Among other provisional consent conditions they will need to fulfill in order to satisfy the conditions of provisional approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Sharbuck, do you have anything further to add under next steps?
Through you, Mayor Robinson, I have nothing further to add to Planner Spencer's explanation.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, closed public meeting. Clerk Sharbuck to the recommendation.
The recommendation through you, Mayor Robinson, is that council hereby closes the public meeting at 9:29 a.m.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hergert, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I will second the motion.
All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 7 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion is carried. Thank you. We're now moving on to and back to our special council meeting. We are on item number 5 of the special council meeting agenda. Item 5, staff reports. 5.1, Manager of Planning and Development. 5.1.1, West Grey Growth Management Strategy, RFP. Clerk Sharbuck to the recommendation.
Dear Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that council receives the report, West Grey Growth Management Strategy, RFP, and that staff are hereby directed to issue a request for proposal to retain a consultant to develop a growth management strategy with a West Grey approach in order to address the needs of West Grey as it relates to present and future growth.
I will take a mover and seconder. We'll have a presentation and then I will call the vote. Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving the motion?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I will move the motion.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchinson, I second the motion.
Thank you. Planner Spencer, for your presentation, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The municipality of West Grey is the largest municipality within the county in terms of land area. And as a result of location and size, the municipality is bounded by several adjacent municipalities who have expressed continued interest in boundary reviews. The municipality is in a position to work with these adjacent municipalities as part of their lower tier interests. In the interest of preserving the interests of West Grey in general, staff recommend the retention of a consultant to review the West Grey component. This would occur in the form of a request for proposals with a successful consultant. The undertaking of this project would ensure that the municipality is poised to defend a position to support or reject proposals of this nature. This strategy would also provide significant benefit to the municipality to further plan for the intended infrastructure projects that may be required going forward. The successful consultant would be required to provide direction to council. A draft of that RFP has been provided as an appendices to this report. Staff recommends the use of this document and the closing date and time of the document to be September 9th of 2021 at 4 p.m. To ensure all pillars of the municipality's strategic plan are upheld, Council has deemed it to be in their best interest to conduct a full peer review if there is a successful opinion by Council to proceed. I'm prepared to answer any questions of clarification following this document. In summary, the components of this document are to provide not just a county growth management strategy, but a growth management strategy related directly to the municipality of West Grey, defined for the approach of the municipality in general. Thank you, and I'm here for further clarifications required.
Thank you. Clarifications with regard to the motion at hand, members of council? Seeing, okay, Councillor Shea.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. The study will look to project growth requirements or growth projections, but also to make recommendations about infrastructure development, which would have to be implemented to meet those growth requirements. Is that correct, Planner Spencer?
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. That is correct. In general, there'll be the overall approach with the documentation and information that we have at the county level at this point in time. That information will form the basis for a little further analyzation related specifically to West Grey. Following that, the prediction based on draft plans and future interest that of lands that have been put up for sale recently, that there's been significant interest in, so we can develop unit counts and growth in future, so that we are in a position that the municipality will understand the infrastructure projects that need to be undertaken in order to be in a position to support and be ready for business, so to speak, when an individual approaches the municipality to develop their lands. Thank you.
So,
Councillor Shea.
to clarify, that would look at if we were having residential growth in one of our primary settlement areas, for example, we might need to upgrade our water treatment facilities, things of that nature, I presume. Would it also look at things which are quote unquote arm's length, like library and police?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. That is correct. All of those needs of the municipality will be addressed as part of the report in projections for future growth, understanding that that is a projection and not necessarily reality, but it also put the municipality in a position to apply for funding, if necessary, for upgrades to identify needs related to water, sewer, identification for boundary adjustments, all of which take time. So this will put us in a position to have the information readily available to plan and allow council to be in a position to budget accordingly in future going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer.
I have a list, which would be Councillor Herger, Councillor Townsend, and then Councillor Hutchinson. Go ahead, Councillor Herger.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to Councillor Shea's inquiry about water and sewer, I didn't see those specific infrastructure projects included in the RFP in the scope. And so actually I was hoping that we could have water, sewer, landfill, police, and fire all included in the scope of the RFP, just so that we're clear and that that our contract person would be able to fulfill those needs specifically. So that was water, sewer, landfill, police, and fire.
Thank you. Planner Spencer, please.
If that is, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. If that is direction of council, the RFP can be amended to address that directly and specifically. Thank you.
I would like to move a motion that it is amended to include that, please.
Clerk Scharbach, with regard, do we take the amendment at this time, or can it be addressed within the scope of the RFP that's before us? Your comment, please.
To you, Mayor, it is up to council. If it's
okay.
Councillor Hergert would like to amend, there is the motion to receive the report and proceed with the RFP on the floor. So if it's Councillor Hergert, if it's your wish to amend that motion to add those specific items that perhaps you would amend it to say and that the RFP address the following growth matters as well. I'm not sure. It's certainly appropriate at this time.
Councillor Hergert, please clarify. I understand that you're looking for an amendment, so please, at this time, it is appropriate through our clerk. Please state what that is.
Yes, the amendment would be that the scope of the RFP include water, sewer, and landfill capacity, as well as future police and fire needs.
Is there a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Shea, are you seconding?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. We'll wait one moment for Clerk Scharbeck to read back the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Councillor Hergert, if you could just confirm that this is captured properly. Moved by Councillor Hergert and seconded by Councillor Shea, that the motion to receive the report be amended by adding that the scope of the RFP include water, sewer, landfill needs, as well as police and fire.
That is correct. Thank you very much, Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Shea is the seconder. Clarity on the motion.
That's fine. I do have a question.
Well, I'll take questions on the amendment now, and then I'll call the vote. So please go ahead, Councillor Shea.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Spencer if this new wording was consistent with the goals that she had saw for this report. I want to make sure that we're not hobbling staff in any way.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, I think the recommendation to adjust the wording is sufficient only in respect to understand that the addition of the landfill component is not a D4 study, and that is not anticipated as part of that application. However, within paragraph 2 of the RFP, it can be amended to provide recommendations that further studies related to that from the ministry level of the D4 study with respect to the landfills can be addressed. Water and sewer from that perspective is done by unit count. So clarity does need to be provided in paragraph 2 of section 1 background. However, I would recommend, and I just want to stress that this is not involving a D4 study of any kind. The capacity of the landfills has to be addressed through a different channel in direction in general. Further clarification if requested, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, very good. So I'm dealing we are all dealing with the amendment at hand. So clarification on the amendment. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, and I appreciate the wording that's been brought forward. I just want to check in as well. There's other things like recreation, parks, library, and growth pressures in those areas too. So I guess my question to staff is, do we need that specific wording in here, or will all those services and assets be taken into account? I guess my concern is by listing landfill, police, fire, water, sewer, we're not also then not paying attention to library, recreation, parks, that kind of thing. So just checking in with staff about the level of detail that we need in the motion. Thank you.
Certainly. Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, just again to clarify, from the perspective of the growth management strategy in general, it's to provide the projections for population, which will feed into the need for the municipality to review future services as required, including all of the aspects, road maintenance, the extension of roadways, the extension of services, water, sewer, also including services as a general rule to relate to the fact that it needs to address those recreational components. Further clarification, if needed, is absolutely welcome. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
No, thank you. That makes sense. It becomes like this baseline, and then we could have more detailed studies or plans coming out of it. That makes sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going over to Councillor Townsend and Councillor Hutchinson. I know you had your electronic hand up. I do see your hands up now. This is to the amendment, beginning with Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question has to do with the request to include specific items. My concern is that they're not going to be in-depth reviews is my expectation. We heard the other day that there is going to be one in water and sewer. And I wonder if touching on this at all within this process is required, or whether it should refer to the other project that Public Works is running rather than include it here. Just meaning they have to touch base, or they don't, meaning the planner will. So I just want to clarify that, because if we're expecting a deeper comment other than to link with another project already initiated, I think we're duplicating effort for staff and potentially confusing others about what we're actually doing here.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, the issue with respect to the two processes running in parallel, they do gel together in the sense that these unit counts will assist and predict and provide information available to Public Works to give them the documentation they need for those unit counts and the prediction for future growth and development. For example, running a water line down, we'll call it Street A in general, running a water line so that it's appropriately sized to support development that's potentially able to occur within a defined settlement area boundary in future, rather than creating a water line that is insufficient for that purpose. The purpose of this report is to provide that information for those unit counts and development overall in general, which will feed not only into Public Works, but recreation and further areas of the municipality's purview to allow them to establish what is needed overall for the municipality based on that growth projection. Again, further clarification is needed. I'm here happy to answer. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Townsend?
Just one further point, and it has to do with the comment made by Councillor Hamilton. And that is, if that is true, wouldn't it be simpler just to say that the results of the this report will actually be passed on to the other areas, rather than saying we're going to look at that as part of it? I guess that's the clarification I'd like to see, because I do understand and appreciate why there's concerns about water and sewer specifically, but fire and police and et cetera. But again, I don't want to confuse. So I'm wondering whether Planner Spencer would entertain just having that different line which says that they will in fact provide that back to the other areas so that they can do their own planning on the infrastructure and resources. And then again, the question is, would a follow-up to that would be, would Councillor Herger be open to that to ensure that that link to water and sewer and et cetera is in fact made?
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, the last sentence of paragraph 2 of the terms of reference can be further clarified to identify those specific needs. But the statement, the growth management strategy will address population projections and anticipate development needs. That can be clarified to address in brackets to further identify needs for further development through other departments of the municipality, something to that effect. But I think the clarification can be provided to satisfy the concerns of Councillor Herger. But I do also want to identify that this report is not intended to become all-encompassing. There are several layers in different departments that will have to be addressed, but this will give us the information required in order for us to be able to establish what the defined terms of reference when they get directly a little bit more strategic in the approach of the municipality to move forward. And as always, any clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Councillor Townsend, was there a direct question for Councillor Herger?
Yes, I'm wondering whether or not we could agree that rather than including a list, we would actually say, as noted by Planner Spencer at the end of paragraph 2, that in fact that information gleaned will in fact be passed on to all the appropriate departments so that they can then do their next step of planning, rather than listing just a few of them.
Before I go to Councillor Herger, Clerk Sharbuck, please.
Note through you, Mayor Robinson, that there's a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Herger and seconded by Councillor Shea. The specific wording, including those items.
Yes.
It doesn't exclude others, and it's fairly general. It doesn't say they're in depth or overreaching. Just a note that she would like those things, or they would both like those things at least touched on or referred to in the report. Just wondering, changing that would be an amending motion, or if it's general enough that it's acceptable to council as it is.
Yes, and we have the amending motion before us. Councillor Townsend is just seeking clarification from Councillor Hergert. I'll go to Councillor Hergert, then Councillor Hutchinson for his clarification question on the amendment. Councillor Hergert.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. To all of council, really, I think there is benefit in being very specific here. While it does not exclude all the other services, it is important that we do have a separate water study going on right now, but that whoever would be the successful RFP contract here, that they would be looking at these specific areas and knowing that we have other studies ongoing right now. It is not to exclude any other service or department, but it is that it is in collaboration with those other studies that are going on. So I think just to be specific for the proponent as well, that they would know that we're looking at these specific areas and to tie in, but not to exclude any other. I think these are pressure points for us that we should be aware of, and I would like their professional third-party opinion about how they all fit together. So I'm happy to let the amending motion stand.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Townsend, before I go to Councillor Hutchinson?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson. So my concern is that we're maybe, I don't want to lose the scope of what this growth management strategy was all about to begin with. We're really looking at the growth that, the pressures that we have on our surrounding boundaries, first of all. And then also we thought it would be worthwhile looking at other growth areas within the municipality of West Grey. I'm just concerned that if we start throwing in like water and sewers, we've already said that we're supposedly doing a consultant, looking at a consultant for next year to look at future growth in water and sewers. So I don't see that as being a big one at this time. And then if we start throwing in a lot of other things like recreation and libraries and so on, that we sort of lose the scope and the focus of what this program or this strategy is really all about. So I really want to, I think we need to stay focused on that part of it, and then the other parts will follow along, and maybe we get some input from our consultant. But I think, as the planner has said here, that our concern is growth strategy and pressures from our boundaries and growth within West Grey. So I really don't want us to lose focus. I'm thinking if we get too specific and start making it too large, we're going to lose, we're not going to gain what we really want to gain out of this study. So that's my concern with this. So I'd like to keep it as general as possible in terms of the extras. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything further, members of council? Clerk Sharbuck, then could you please read the amending? Councillor Hergert, yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, I think if we're going out to tender for a professional in project management that we're looking at growth, I believe that they will have expertise that our staff just won't have, and can look at the overall picture of West Grey and whether or not we should be expanding west, east, north, south, whichever direction. But to that point, it also will help us plan servicing and needs, like fire and police have different coverage zones and what services are provided to the east and the west of us that we already overlap with. So I think that there could be a lot of benefit in not just looking at the specific boundary areas, but to look at every service that we have and how it coordinates in with our future planning needs. That's all. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I agree with you, Councillor Hergert, about addressing the service needs, but I take comfort in the report that that's covered in that sentence that our planner mentioned, to address projections related to services that the municipality will require going forward. I'm just concerned your wording is hyper-focusing and might limit looking at other services. So I feel like the report covers it off, and it will tie into all our departments. And so for that reason, I'm comfortable with the report as it stands. Thank you.
Clerk Sharbuck, could you please read the amending motion, and then I'll call the vote?
Through Mayor Robinson, moved by Councillor Hergert and seconded by Councillor Shea, that the motion regarding the West Grey Growth Management Strategy RFP be amended by adding that the scope of the RFP include water, sewer, landfill needs, as well as police and fire.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend and Councillor Hutchinson, could you please take your electronic hands off? Because I'm about to call the vote on the amendment and I don't want any confusion. All those in favor with the amendment, raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. 2 members of council voted in favor of the motion. 5 members of council voted against the amending motion. The amending motion has lost. Clerk Sharbeck to the main motion.
To Mayor Robinson, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson, that council receives the report West Grey Growth Management Strategy, RFP, and that staff are hereby directed to issue a request for proposal to retain a consultant to develop a growth management strategy with a West Grey approach in order to address the needs of West Grey as it relates to present and future growth.
Questions of clarity for the motion at hand, Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to note that if you look at the statistics in the growth report at the county, in 2021, West Grey is the second largest in population, rather than just staying at first in area. However, the projection going forward moves us to third, and everyone else is catching up. So I think growth is really an important aspect for us. So what we do, I think we need to do it very, very well. And the focus that we'll have hopefully will get us there. So my first question comes into the line of not just population, but businesses that we might need to grow. Because the second thing that the county report shows is that our employment has been dropping. And in fact, they show very close to the 2046 range, an increase. And I'm wondering how we would ever attain that if we're not looking at the business side of it as well. And I know the growth plan of the county did include both residents, meaning people, and housing. And so I'm wondering, does this one actually include businesses as well?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, I believe that encapsulates what the intent of this report will do moving forward to provide the information necessary for the municipality to be more direct in other departments moving forward.
Councillor Townsend, anything further?
Yes, I do. I have one more. It has to do with the actual cost and scope of this project. With what we're referring to, and I went and looked at the schedule that's in the RFP, and we either have 11 reports / meetings. That wasn't 100% clear to me. And it's over a 9-month window from the time that we award it to the time the report is expected. And I'm wondering, is $25,000 anywhere near adequate for that kind of study? And I'm concerned that not that we spend more, but do we identify upfront an appropriate cost and effort? And so we don't undersell it and we don't get surprised later. And yet we put the right dollars to get the best effort. We don't want to be doing this again, next year because we didn't put enough in this time. So the question to Planner Spencer is, are we being reasonable in our $25,000 estimate when we're talking about 11 reports / meetings, meaning interactions, and over a 9-month window for this scope of effort?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, with respect to the budget, I believe the identification of the 4 meetings involved as a minimum with the municipal working group in general through the public engagement process, defined deliverables and council engagement. You are correct. It's probably in the range of 10 meetings in general overall. Related with respect to what that looks like, it will have to be clearly defined by each respondent within the RFP process to identify what that budget is. If the municipality is not in a position to satisfy the requirements of $25,000, that's a question that can be brought forward with the results of those RFP responses to identify if there's further funds that need to be allocated from reserve. I will refrain from speaking to what those allocations may be. I'm not sure that Director Mighton is on the call, but I'll refrain from speaking to those. But as a result, no successful respondent to the RFP will be awarded without full review of what the budget looks like from a perspective, not only in the quality and quantity of the information that we're receiving, but the financial component as well.
Director Knighton, is there anything further you wish to add to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, our current planning reserves, which we've used for official plan, secondary plan, those types of updates in the past, the current balance is just over $44,000. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Townsend?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, my question sort of got answered there. I was concerned with the dollar value that it wouldn't be enough, but when the RFPs come in, they'll obviously have a budget attached to it, so we can look at it then. So no, I'm fine. Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. So I think we have an opportunity here to add a sentence or two in the RFP about using a climate change lens as we examine growth and how that growth impacts our services, how growth impacts emissions, how we look to preserving and enhancing our green infrastructure as we grow, how hazards are changing with bigger and more frequent flood events and how that impacts with our growth, and just growth pressures on those green infrastructure, preserving agricultural lands, for example. So I think there is an opportunity to look at this planning through the lens of climate change, and I'd be looking for that expertise and experience in our consultant. And so I'm asking staff if a sentence could be included in the RFP about using a climate lens throughout the study. Thank you.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I would suggest that the general terms related to the issues overall with municipality and the strategic plan and the documents at hand that the municipality has at this time would be sufficient in the summary that's been provided. However, it's the desire and will of council to add that specifically. That is up to them, but a climate change action plan is outside of the projections for growth from a planning perspective. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. And yeah, like we were talking about library and police, it wouldn't be looking for a plan for climate change. They'd be using the lens of climate change as the consultant addresses the projections related to services the municipality will require moving forward, and just also land use, right? And so perhaps I might touch base with our CAO as well and her work with the Climate Action Committee, and if there's an opportunity to include that kind of language in the RFP. Thank you.
CIO Johnston.
Through Mayor Robinson, and good morning, Council. I understand we're trying to make a shift to that climate action is front and center. It's ingrained in the way we approach many of our processes and policies, that sort of thing. I think it would be fine to be mindful of that, but I do have concerns that we're going to be overlapping because the RFP for the climate action plan is in its final editing stages as well. And, we maybe that's the vehicle to capture, how we look globally at everything that we're doing, including planning for our growth. My preference would be, quite honestly, Councillor Hamilton, to keep them separate and have this one remain focused just on what the planner's needing out of this exercise.
Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. And thank you to both our staff for your expert opinion. I do think that climate lens is something that we bring to all of our policy documents and our planning documents. So I think it would be very appropriate to ask that of the consultant as well. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Shea and then Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. So one comment and then a question. This is a growth management strategy. And I've heard a couple of comments, talking about how we need growth and how we would like to see more growth. I'm hoping that this study is fairly agnostic about whether growth is a good thing or not. We may come to the conclusion based on this study and public input that we want to have a conservative, cautious approach to growth. We might want to have an aggressive, assertive, and fast approach to growth. But we're not really certain about that at this point. So I'm just hoping that we're not saying we're trying to get maximum growth through this strategy. We're trying to get a handle on growth and what pace of growth is appropriate for West Grey at this time. That's my comment. The question is sparked by Councillor Hutchinson's comments about boundary issues. I don't see boundary issues actually identified in the RFP. I know it was part of our impulse for doing this study. Doesn't that need to be referred to in any way specifically? Question to Planner Spencer. Thank you.
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, to focus directly on the growth components of the municipality of West Grey is the primary approach, in essence, to establish, if approached by an adjacent municipality, identifying that they would like to change the boundary to gain some of the municipality of West Grey's land in general from that boundary. We need to have an establishment of whether or not we need those lands to accommodate projected growth, or whether or not those lands and negotiations going forward may be considered in a different light based on future growth projections. Without growth management strategy in place with those projections, the municipality really is going in blind to every approach that may happen, and therefore was the determination of why this may be necessary should council wish to move forward with the approval of this document going to RFP. That's the main approach for the municipality, have the information to move forward on multiple departmental levels for different areas and aspects, but also to be able to negotiate from a position of knowledge and a position that we have the information to back up our position to support or not support that boundary adjustment. That's the general intent, to have that information before council from a two-pronged approach. Boundary adjustments are not necessarily identified. It's outside of the scope of this project, and based on this document coming forward, should council approve to proceed, we'll have the information to defend the position that the municipality may or may not want to take based on requests that may happen in future. Any further clarification, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Shea?
So thank you. So this document this study will not address boundary issues explicitly. This will be information which we will be able to use in future boundary deliberations then, if I understand correctly.
Planner Spencer?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. That is correct. The intent of the document is to provide the knowledge, background information, and necessary tools for the municipality to make an informed decision when formal requests come forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hergert, please.
Yes, so I am curious who is on the working group. Is that Councillor Hutchison and Councillor Townsend?
CAO Johnston?
Through you, Mayor Robinson. Yes, Councillor, those are the two council reps, and then Planner Spencer, myself, and our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works participates in that group.
Okay, wonderful. I know that we've already discussed the specifics. I'm hoping that when we receive the this report will be a start from scratch report, right? This is our West Grey perspective on future development. Has there been or will there be a reference to any of the documents that have already been provided about obviously Hanover has their perspective, Grey County has their perspective. That will all be background for our contract.
Planner Spencer?
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. Those documents will be used as background information for the basis of the report, more specifically the county's overall approach, and then it will delve into the more specific approach through the successful consultant to delve into the specifics of West Grey in general, not just the surrounding municipalities as a whole through the county level. Thank you.
And we also have a memorandum with Hanover regarding cooperation and so on. I would expect that that would be included in the background information for the scope of this project.
Planner Spencer?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. That is correct. The information, anything available that we have at this point in time would be provided as background information for review. It won't be specifically requested for them to address each component in minute detail. It's beyond the scope of the project, but it will give them the background understanding so that they can proceed with that knowledge in mind. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Hergert?
Not at this time, thank you.
Anything further, members of council? Councillor Hamilton?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. I just wanted to say thank you to staff for bringing this forward. It's very timely, and I really look forward to this process and the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clerk Sharbuck, to the motion at hand.
Through Mayor Robinson, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. The council receives the report West Grey Growth Management Strategy, RFP, and that staff are hereby directed to issue a request for proposal to retain a consultant to develop a growth management strategy with a West Grey approach in order to address the needs of West Grey as it relates to present and future growth.
All those in favor indicate with the raised hand. 7 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion has carried. Item number 6, adjournment. Clerk Sharbuck, pardon me, Clerk Sharbuck, to the recommendation.
Through Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that we do now adjourn at 10:08 a.m. to meet again on August 10th, 2021 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you seconding?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I will second the motion.
All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 7 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion has carried. This meeting